Good morning, everybody. My name is the Sobri Voice, Wale Fatse from the Big R. As you know that the Big R, it's a financial company, but you know that finance is cut across. We have finance in sports. So we have a sports program. So today, this morning, I just decided to invite Kgomotso Mokoena. Kgomotso is a seasoned journalist. He has been there for a while. He might not remember me. I remember him while he was still with Sunday Times. I was with Voice of Tembisa. I would meet him in the press conference, but he meets a lot of people. So it's understandable if he might not remember me. So how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor, and I'm very excited to be part of your show. And I do remember you, and then it's been a while that we haven't been communicating or being in touch, many years. But yeah, thanks again for having me, and I'm excited being part of this show.
So you have been doing sports for some time. In most cases, I always say the best teacher is experience. Experience the best teacher. So you can differentiate between an experienced guy and a guy who's not experienced. So we want to tap from experience. And today, I want us to talk about, just give us the story. We have done a lot on the story. Royal AM, PSL, SAFA, the courts, all that and all that. But I must say, on Tuesday morning, we had an advocate who was giving us the legal, perspective and analysis of how things unfolded legally, because the matter is still sub judice. But you, as a journalist, we want you to give us blow by blow. How did it started? What's happening? Where are we now? And all that. I don't know whether you get my point. Feel free. Can start anywhere, but let's give them the details. Yeah.
Yeah, Sobri, I must say, in my 20 years of covering football and covering sports in general, I started in 2003. And, I worked my way up and 20 years later now, it's one of the most intricate and one of the most complex and most difficult stories to cover, this one in all these years that I have been doing PSL, I've been doing SAFA, and I've been doing South African football in general. There were a lot of twists and turns. There were a lot of things that caught us off guard. It's the first time that, we are witnessing matches that are abandoned, deliberately, and we need to try. I will try and unpack it for you from the beginning where it all started. And I hope, because there's a lot of chronological things here that we may just miss some, because there has been a lot happening, especially between May and June. And leading into July, so much happened with these court cases, and I'm sure the courts, the clubs, and the PSL bosses, the PSL officials must be exhausted by this. They want to see the back of this particular case so that we can begin with a new season. And I am hoping that lessons have been learned, and I am praying that similar mistakes or the same mistakes shouldn't be happening again going forward, because this has been, as much as lessons were learned, there's been a big embarrassment to the league bosses, to South African football people, to the football lovers in general, who are very livid and very angry about the turn of events and how this whole thing was handled. When Sobri, maybe you can ask a question, or maybe you want me to go on.
You know what? Before you go on, I don't know whether we can touch on this. I don't know whether it's Mjazo, your colleague,
yes,
who wrote that maybe it's high time. I don't know. I may be wrong. You'll correct me. It's high time that Dr. Ivan Khoza, Ausi Manto Madlala, they need to evaluate their position of being club bosses and also be involved with the PSL. Am I right? Is it Mjazo who wrote that?
I don't recall seeing it by Mjazo, and I wouldn't be sure who wrote it.
Yeah,
and
but
I
you
would
saw
have
that
confirmed
article.
it. No, I remember reading that article, but I'm not sure who's the author of that article. Yes.
I don't know whether, because today we want to discuss Royal AM. Do you want us to venture maybe later on that one? What's your take?
Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's venture into that one later on.
Okay. As long as you are comfortable. I don't want you to venture to something that you are not comfortable.
Because I may have, I don't remember the author of that article, and it will be difficult for me, you know, to add or subtract from.
No, it doesn't matter, but at least we know the subject. The subject is why do you have two heads? All right. And if you are not comfortable, let me tell you my approach as far as this show is concerned. We don't want to antagonize anybody. That's one thing. But we want to give information, very educated information, so that people can learn. So that is why I'm asking, are you prepared to venture into that one? But we can deal with that one later. But
let's sit down and talk about that one on another date and stuff, so that we can unpack it and dissect it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Let's deal with the Royal AM story. Then we can go on. If my memory serves me well, the match in particular was in January 2, where Polokwane City played against Sekhukhune United, and Polokwane City defeated Sekhukhune United 1-0, and obviously granted 3 points for their victory. But what came out of the match is that Polokwane City were not able to field five under 23 players as per the PSL rules and regulations, and this rule has been in place for some years now. But you know, since the advent of the COVID pandemic, I think there was a PSL Board of Governors sit and meeting last year where, you know, clubs were, I think clubs or people were pleading with the league that please be lenient on this law because of COVID, and then we are losing players. You know, sometimes we are unable to have those 5 under 23 players in the teams and something like that. But then the Board of Governors of the league decided to continue with the rule, you know, despite all the deliberations, and I'm sure they listened and to all the merits and the discussions of the thing, and then, but no, they decided to continue. So it was part of Polokwane City's contention that, you know, we couldn't field the players. If I remember well, they fielded 4 players, and then they won the match, and then Sekhukhune United took the matter to arbitration and stuff. To the PSL disciplinary committee and stuff. From the PSL disciplinary committee. Now, before you go any further, let me ask you, this rule, comparatively speaking, if you look at parts of the world, is it there? There is any country that has the same rule as the rule that we have?
As far as I am concerned, I don't recall reading or knowing that any other football association or federation have this kind of a rule. I don't think it is happening, but I think when the reason why it was introduced, it was to help South Africa in terms of development.
Yes.
As you would have alluded, that we've been struggling to produce young players. We've been struggling to produce players that are good enough to play in the South African under-23 league. And then, you know, we were always getting players from other African countries to come and play in our leagues, and we're not developing our own players. So it was a good move to introduce such a rule, but I think the league should have been flexible about it, especially when it comes to a pandemic. You know, no one plans for a pandemic. It just arrives and visits, you know, the country and turns everything into chaos. So a lot of clubs were affected by this, especially the Third Africa Championship clubs in the first division, because, you know, when you've got 4 players out, what if, you know, the players that were, you know, infected by COVID at the time is the 5 under 23 players, then you have a problem. You are sitting with a big problem. But like I said, the league and the NSL and the Board of Governors should have been flexible. Now the situation is different, especially the whole world, because now for the first time playing behind closed stadiums, there are no fans, but we can turn this rule and make it flexible so that at least you can accommodate
Why
clubs that have a problem, of which the reasoning is valid enough, and you can understand where the clubs come from. But the POG decided to continue with the rule nonetheless.
While they're still there, I like when you open, you said probably lessons have been learned. Probably when we go to the new season, there will be a different approach. Remember, you'll never be perfect until you make a mistake. All right? You'll never be perfect until you hit what you call a stumbling block. Then you start thinking, what must I do? Because why I'm asking this, I think Dr. Ivan Koza came up with a brilliant idea of MDC. It's MDC. Now, my question my question is, if there is this MDC, which I think is playing that role of nurturing players, and we can see players that are coming out from there, from MDC. Is it MDC, Super Sport MDC Cup?
That's the multi-choice disc challenge.
Yeah, multi-choice disc challenge. Do you understand? So that for me was visionary enough. So once that came in place, I think they should have reviewed this rule. Because I was saying, if I'm a boss of a Glad Africa team, I've invested my money. Like you are saying, I don't have players. I don't have 4. I have, let's say I have 5. But these 3 can play football. Only 2 can really do well. Do you understand? How do I invest it? So probably it's an eye-opener. Because I'm sure a multi-choice disc challenge is serving that purpose very well. We have so many players who came out of that system who are doing well. That's a view. I'm not saying I'm correct, but I'm just throwing it that probably they could have learned from here. But that's all what I wanted to find out. Then you can move on. And then thereafter they refuse, then what happened?
Yeah. I was on the point that, PSL, and then there was a disciplinary committee meeting, and then Polokwane City were fined, and no points were deducted, and stuff. They got their 3 points. They just got a fine. It's just that I don't remember how much in terms of monetary terms the fine was, but they were just fined and no deduction of points. And then Sekhukhune took the matter to arbitration, SAFA arbitration. And yes, that's when the SAFA arbitrator said that no, the fine was not enough, and then they taking 3 points away from Polokwane City, and they are awarding Sekhukhune 3 points. And you see, the problem is that this thing, the match was in January, the first week of January, but it was only held, you know, around April. You know, there were about 3 months, 4 months in between when the matter could have been easily resolved. You know, all the parties sitting down speedily, and then you sort it out so that towards the end of the league, you don't have such matters, you know, hovering above your head, because it does create an issue where people will complain and say, why now? Now that people can see where the league is going, points are being taken to this team, points are being taken, it could have been speedily resolved and everything would have been far. And then Royal AM would have known that, they don't have the points and this happening, and then they could have fought for points. Unlike, where, at the end of the last day of the season, you're still not sure who's going to be winning, who's going to be getting promotion, who's celebrating. Both teams are celebrating. That was very, very embarrassing for the league. And you hope such things are dealt with speedily, expeditiously, and that they don't happen again. And then in between, there was a flurry of court hearings. There was, an exchange of court papers and documents. Us sports writers had now turned into court reporters and court journalists, and you dealing with legal jargon and matters of the court that you don't necessarily understand, like you understand the jargon that you are working with in terms of football matches and sports in general. But then, we needed to consult to understand some of the legal matters, some of the legal terms that were thrown in front of us. It became very ugly, and it was just a flurry of court appearances, sitting in, after hours, senior counsel and high-profile lawyers and advocates been thrown into the frame. And as we speak, it hasn't been resolved as well.
And we know that apparently it's going to the Constitutional Court now. The advocate, outlined a lot of issues. What I'm interested in, Sekhukhune, when did they launch their complaint with SAFA?
It was around April 28, April 29. Towards the end of April, when the first DC was heard. Yeah, when the first DC was heard, and then immediately after that, Sekhukhune said, no, we are going to SAFA. And then SAFA appointed an arbitrator, Hilton Epstein.
Yeah.
And then, it was around May. It was in the middle of May, if I'm not mistaken. And then when he ruled that Sekhukhune now are getting all the 3 points. And you must remember that once an arbitrator has ruled, the PSL have a rule that the arbitrator's ruling is final.
Yes. Well, I don't think it's a PSL per se, legally speaking.
Yes, that's what I say. Become court reporters and matters of the legal. But I've always thought it was just the PSL, part of the PSL handbook. That if I remember, I will try, and it says one of the PSL is that for all the 32 clubs in the PSL and in the first division must not approach the courts of law to seek recourse. Yeah, and any breach of that we can constitute misconduct, which can be dealt with in the leagues again. So it was all those things that it should have. It was supposed to be final. The arbitration, yes, the arbitrator's decision was supposed to be final, and then, but it was ruled in that favor, and then Sekhukhune were supposed to have been declared as the winners of the league and gain automatic promotion. But then the matter took another 10. If you remember, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping I'm doing it chronologically, so that I'm not misrepresenting what I'm saying. And then if I remember well, and then Polokwane City were joined by the PSL and Royal AM as one of the co-applicants to review the arbitrator's ruling.
Yes.
And then
now the fact of the matter is, this is what I wanted to find out. That game of Sekhukhune and Polokwane, did Sekhukhune lodge a protest? Because remember, if my memory serves me well, you need to lodge a protest on the day of the game. Did they lodge a protest?
I don't remember well, but I would, if I would think that the game was indeed played under a protest, and then that's why after the game they were able to proceed with in terms of approaching the PSL disciplinary committee and stuff. Yes.
Okay, no, that's fine. Because the advocate who was here, he was just explaining that that's true. That even if the federation, not only soccer, all sporting federation, they have barred their participants or their affiliates to go to court. But remember, even if they've barred them to go to court, but we are all constitutional beings. Remember, we are saying it's a constitution first, the rest follow. So he was arguing that every person, every institution, every individual has a right to go to court if feel aggrieved. So probably all these people who took the matter to court, they were exercising that right, that we have a right to go to court. Now it's up to PSL to look at their rules to say, what do we do in this situation? But we have pointed something very interesting, that this matter started in January. Now it was, I don't know what happened. When you ask guys from the PSL, from the corridors, what are they saying? What was the delay? And I'm sure during the court proceedings, it came out. Did they say what was the delay from between January and April?
You know, they're always saying the PSL prosecutor, Nande Becker, is inundated with a lot of cases on his desk, and they need to beef up his team. They need to beef up his department with, I think, more personnel and more legal people so that they can deal with such cases, you know, speedily to avoid such matters. Because this is not the only case that's going on forever and ever and ever and ever. You know, there are cases from last year. You know, there are cases that drag on for months and months and months without being resolved. And this leads to this bottleneck. And because now a decision needed to be made quickly. The league needed to know who the champions are. The league needed to find out, you know, to make fixtures for the new seasons. And then, you know, when it makes or reaches a bottleneck, it becomes a problem. So the sooner they sort out that legal department and assist the PSL prosecutor in terms of personnel and stuff, the better it will be for the league going forward.
But like you said, maybe it's a learning curve. I think now we are learning in a hard way. Remember, our league is becoming more sophisticated. Is the richest league in Africa. You know, all those, they come into play, and we can see even the people who are coming to own the teams, their pockets are deep. So yeah, so I think this will be like an eye-opener to everybody. We as supporters will know that, oh, this is how things are being done. And then we don't want to say, Royal AM, you are wrong, or you are right, Skukuni, you are wrong, you are right. Let the rule or the law take its course. And then we just hope that at the end of the day, whatever decision that will be taken, it will be a just decision, all right? And then everybody will be happy that I exercised my right up to this point in time, but finally I was defeated. If it goes to the Constitutional Court, of course, which is the last lap of the dispute resolution. So maybe after that, that will be knowing. And we are worried because the league has to start. When is the league starting, by the way, Kgomotso?
On the 21st of August.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and on the 14th, it starts with the MTN 8 on the 14th, but that's a cup tournament. And then the first round of matches are on the 21st.
Okay. Now, have you ever heard when is this constitutional court gonna sit?
You see what is happening. We don't have the details of those yet, and for some reason I'm not sure if it is indeed gonna get there. What when I'm reading the situation is that I for some reason I see that the PSL has outmaneuvered the Royal AM and especially their legal team. Why I'm saying this is that the league has continued with the way has continued on with their program. You know, they last week they released the PSL fixtures, and then if it's not today, I think it was yesterday, they released the first division fixtures, of which Royal AM has been fixtured. They will be playing Cape Town, I think Cape Town United on the 21st of August. They've been scheduled to do that. And I don't know if why the PSL would want to do that when they don't have their ducks in a row or have preempted the situation, that it's still gonna go to the constitutional court and then may lead to it being declared null and void and stuff. What is happening now is that there's a disciplinary matter.
I wanted us to talk about that one.
There's a disciplinary matter of which the PSL wants to charge Royal AM for not honoring those 4 matches of the relegation promotion playoffs, of which hugely embarrassed the league, you know, cost the league and the sponsors a lot of money, because SuperSport were taking their cameras to the games, and advertisers were selling airspace and airtime to customers who want to advertise during matches, but then there would not be matches and stuff. So the PSL wants to charge that. But there's been a lot of interdicts. There's been a lot of postponements. It was supposed to have been had. I think it was the first one was on the 17th of June. It was postponed. There was supposed to be another one this past weekend, and then it did not take place. Why? I am not sure. It didn't happen. And
no,
then,
apparently, Mrs. Mkhize was not feeling well. And then I think the last one, it was the request for postponement was requested by her advocates, Advocate Darlene Pofu, requested that the matter should be postponed. I think on the basis that she's not feeling well. So do we know any date of that?
It's 11 August. I think it's next
11
week,
August.
next week, Wednesday. So that's what we say. That's what we call Judgment Day. And I think the matter on that day, the league, the club, and everyone is expecting the matter to be finalized. Because at the end of the day, Royal AM know that football still has to happen. The league, they know that football has to continue, even though they could have done better in terms of handling the whole situation, and we did not really need to be where we are, because football is played and won on the field of play, not in the courts of law. You know, I had a lot of deliberations with their legal team, Eric Mabuza and Happy Godi, and they come out very strong, and they were adamant of their case. And, you know, they were, you know, on record saying things like the CEO of the PSL must be, you know, must face jail time because of being in contempt of court, because there was a ruling and there was an interdict that the playoffs should not continue from Judge A.J. Nyati, and then the PSL continued because they sought leave to appeal as well. And it was just getting messy and getting out of, and their legal team was saying no, then the CEO must face jail time for being in contempt, and if they continue, they are not respecting the constitution of the South Africa and stuff. And then other than that the playoffs that were played between Chippa and Richards Bay should be declared null and void, and that it was just a waste of time, waste of space, and waste of resources. That's what they said. And then they also went on further to explain and say that they are willing to take this case to the highest court of sports, which is the Court of Arbitration in Switzerland, the CAS, CAS. They were willing to do that. But now next week, it's the 11th, it's the final hearing of the DC. And then I'm sure we will learn from the club or from the legal team of what steps or what the next measures they are planning to do if they are approaching the Constitutional Court. But the matter, even from the club or from the legal team, could have been handled differently. You know, when you speak to legal people who were involved in football and some who were not involved, in football, they say, you know, some advice would have been for Royal AM to play the relegation promotion playoffs under protest rather than not pitching for the matches and embarrassing the league, embarrassing the sponsor, and making the South African football community livid and angry and stuff. It's like making people to turn against you because people want to watch football. You know, we have a pandemic and not so much going on in the country. Football brings hope, and football, you know, people are sitting at home. They want to watch the matches. The playoff matches have always been exciting. And then the fixtures are out, and then what maybe they could have done or consulted or tried to get advice on is to say, can we play these matches? Number one, we play them under protest, and then we still continue with our court actions or whatever. Or maybe number two, we can win these playoffs. And if we win these playoffs, we are in the PSL. That's what they want. Don't you think?
Well,
that's what they want.
Well,
but then, yeah.
I was saying probably, sorry, maybe you wanted to finish something. Let me allow you.
You can go ahead.
I wanted to say probably maybe those legal representatives, they believe in their convictions that they were right, you know, but we know that the court has pronounced. Once the court has pronounced, whether you think you're right or not, it's irrelevant. It's academic.
Yes.
So, and there's nothing wrong in people believing in something and say, I pursue it, you know, and let them pursue it. It's their right, you know.
Yeah.
I'm saying at the end of the day, all of us are going to come out wiser, all of us, and we'll plan better. All right.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong in people exercising their right, and then it makes us better society and a better organization. But now let's look at the outcome, which could be the possible outcome of the DC of the 11th. Which, let's say they are found guilty. What could be the outcome? What are the penalties according to the rule book?
I'm not sure, because this one it's a unique case. It's different. I don't think we've had, or the league has had, something like this since the inception of the PSL, I think around 1996 and stuff. And then I've read a lot of reports were saying they could face expulsion. I don't think so. I think that would be very harsh. That would be heavy-handed and stuff. And I think they just need to be reminded that as part of the league, before you go on to the courts, as according to the handbook of the PSL handbook, you need to exhaust the avenues of the league first. Before you include the courts or include government, and before you, because even FIFA, once a federation or the one government intervenes or interferes, they can ban that federation. They want sports to have solutions, rather, you know, sports solutions and stuff. So in this one, it's going to be very interesting. and it will be very difficult to preempt what the PSL outcome would be. And then I think they'll just send a strong message and a strong warning to Royal AM that you know we play according to the rules, we're playing according to the laws, and you need to honor that and respect that. You cannot continue to embarrass us. That thing of them not honoring their matches was really bad for the image of South African soccer. You know, the team pitches at the stadium, they're not there. They just the one team, the referee blows the whistle, the game is over. The referee wants them a 3-0 win, there's no points. It's really bad for image of South African football. And I'm sure going forward, a strong message will be sent to them that it should not happen again.
But so as much as you'll remember that we have seen a team being fired, Jomo Cosmos, it was fired in the same league at some point until Morocco Silos fought for them to come back. So
that would have been many before my time. That would have been many years.
Yeah, Jomo Cosmos was fired at the NSL. I think it was during the time of the late Cyril Kobos. If I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong.
Yes.
And then they were fired, and then they went to court to fight their way back. So this is not unique. Maybe that could also serve as a reference to say we once fired this one. Maybe you can also fire this one. So it's not even far-fetched. So it could still
but they've changed the rules since the inception of the new Premier Soccer League. They've changed a certain, they've tweaked and came up with new rules, because I'm sure a lot of those rules that were used in those days cannot be relevant and cannot be used anymore in this time of in these years, and because a lot of change in football, in terms of transfers, signing on fees. There's a whole lot that is at stake. So yeah, it will be very interesting. And then we're looking forward to the 11th. We just want to see the back of this case. We just want to see this thing resolved. We just want to see all the 16 clubs in the PSL in the first division play football, and I think Royal AM have a very good team. When you see them play on the field, and I would have wanted to see them play in the playoffs, because I believe they had a good chance. I strongly believe that they had a good chance of winning those playoffs, because Chippa United were not that strong, and Royal AM were much better and stronger than Richards Bay FC. And I believe that they would have won the playoffs and secured their position in the PSL and let this court matter. So now they didn't play. They have, it's going to be difficult for them to win and get their place in the PSL, because Chippa United are going to come out and say, we played in the playoffs and we won our matches.
Yes.
It's another protected legal matter now. Because Chippa United are not going to just say, let's say the Constitutional Court says Royal AM are the rightful winners of the whatever. What happens to Chippa United? They played in the playoffs. They played all their matches. They honored them and they won. And they're gonna say no, by virtue of the PSL law, number 15 plays in the playoffs, of which we did, and we won. So now you cannot come back and tell us this. It's gonna be messy. It's gonna be messy.
Yeah, even if they say, okay, Chippa, we are in, Royal AM, we are in, make it 17. Those who have been relegated, I say, we want to be bad.
So
it'll go to 20 league teams.
Yeah, of which they discarded many years ago, because it was cumbersome. And they said, no, 16 it's easier and stuff, because we need to have cup tournaments to bring in money.
Well, that's it, Kgomotso. I don't know whether you still want to add on that. I hope our viewers out there, you got the story. We gave you the story from a legal perspective. Now we are giving you the story from a journalist. And I'm sure you also have an opinion. If you ask me as an individual what I wish I wish after all these cases have ended, anyone has won or lost, I want to see all these guys coming to one table and drink a cup of coffee and laughing at each other, because it was important probably for this to be done so that we can learn from each other. That's my view. But it should not be a grudge. You know, I should not say, because you took me to court, then I'm angry at you. And that's my opinion. That's what I wish. That's what I wish.
Yeah, like I had said, Lena, we are tired of the boardrooms. We're tired of the court proceedings. We just want to see the opening of the new season. We just want to see players on the field. We just want to see new talent. That's why we love the beautiful game. It should be played on the football pitches. And thanks for having me, my brother.
Once again, I would say probably the PSL, they have to relook this thing of 5 under 23 players, you know, and revisit it, like you are saying, because of COVID. And I'm saying, what does the multi-choice disc challenge's purpose if you still have another thing that will help us to unearth? And I can tell you, disc multi-choice has produced good players. We can see at Kaizer Chiefs, many teams, Orlando Pirates, you can name them. We see a lot of good players coming from.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So thank you for coming, Edzo. And then I must say, I must thank you for agreeing, moreover, that you're not feeling well. And I must also thank Sunday World for allowing us to use you. Remember, you're still their custodian. And I must also thank Mr. Walim Bele, who's the editor, who always, when we ask him to assist, he agrees. And also Nwako Malachi, who gave me your numbers. Thank you very much. So from time to time, we'll always engage you guys on the stories that we have written. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Abuti. Thank you.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Sharp.